Alright, TK1636. I've done a lot of bondo, probably 3-4 coats of bondo. Other than the 3-4 coats of ABS paste, I've done a couple coats of the primer. So far I've only primered just this middle part. I've sanded just lightly with 220, got it scratched up enough. Everywhere else that I didn't do the bondo and the primer, I used nitro-stan. It's basically when you use bondo for cars, you use a nitro-stan. There might be just a tiny little divot in there or a little air pocket or whatever, and that helps fill it in. So I've done that. Most of the line is gone. I only kind of still see it here, but I'm going to go ahead and primer the whole thing probably 3-4 times. Once it's primered enough, then I'll check and see if I still see these marks. If I do, then I'll use a little bit of nitro-stan and sand it down, and then re-primer it one more time. And then I've also done that. So I sanded with the palm sander. I think it had 80. This is 80. And when I sanded with the 80, and it's basically just one of these belts that was old, I cut it up. You can see the big gouges it puts in it, the 80 does. So what I did was use 220, and I sanded 220 as best I could. You're still going to see a little bit, but it's not too noticeable. And once I primered it, I can see it, and then nitro-stan it. The nitro-stan fills in those nice little scratches in there. So once I put enough coats of primer on there, it should go away. Let's see. And then once I'm done priming these, I'll probably put 3-4 coats today, let it dry for a few hours, and then I'll color sand it. So I just basically have a bowl with water, and then I'll use 1,000-1,500. Well, I'll start 220 and then 1,000-1,500, make it nice and smooth. Then I'll go with the paint. And I just remembered that I need to actually put these two together so I can paint them both together. I don't really want to paint in here, get paint in here, and then try to glue it down with the paint. It's not going to really stick that well to the paint, and it's probably going to end up coming off. So I'll glue this down first before I paint it, but I got to sand down here just to scratch it up enough to where the paint will adhere to the plastic. And one problem I was having with this one, it kept wanting to crack right here. So since I put this in the back, RS puts theirs in the front, but again, I didn't want you to see it. So once it's on, but since I put the other one in, you're going to end up seeing it anyway. So I should have, on hindsight, I should have probably just put this up here and then glued the face down. But you know, lesson learned. But at least now with this piece in here, it won't crack up here. Very few people will see that anyways, because they'll be looking at you like that. So I have to put these two together, and then these right here are the 3D printed 3M screws. I'm going to paint them a primer gray. So these will be painted separately. Actually, I'm not even 100% sure if I have gray. I think I need to get some primer gray so I can paint these. But what I definitely need to do is get this one. I'm debating on exactly how I should glue it down. So I should tape the ends. I also did sand it in here so that it butted up a lot better. So what I'll probably do is I'll just throw some right here, some glue, and then do the ends second. And then also I'm gonna, because I'm not gonna put any mesh here, I'm gonna paint the whole inside black, like a flat black. So when you see through, it won't have the mesh, so you won't see the mesh. You can always, the guy that I'm building it for, he can always put the mesh in later, but I'm not going to put the mesh in. If he ever goes Lancer with this kit, then it calls for no mesh in there. So now I get to put this in here, and making sure these are nice and straight. Okay. Just hold it for a few seconds. Let the glue work. Put a little bit more right here. So I'm still gonna probably paint the interior here. I'll paint this side, and I might throw some paint on this side just to get rid of some of this roughness. For some reason the inside of this had a lot of roughness. So I'll probably paint this white, and then the inside will be black. So that's on now. Now all I need to do is, it's not connected here, so I want to line these up as close as I can so they're somewhat close. I'm still debating on if I want to make it straight or if I want to just leave it. It's bent quite a bit right here, so it's kind of bent in right there. The other side, that's bent in a little bit. This one just seems to be bent in just a little bit more. I'm just going to barely bend it back the other way so they at least match. So I'll probably just put it up to where it's as close as possible, and I'll just do the same exact thing I did over there. Throw some glue down. I'll throw a little bit of glue up here. That one might not, I'm not going to be able to hit it in there, so I'll just concentrate on here. It's too much of a gap in between there. See if this side's a little bit, that's still a little bit of a gap, so all I'm going to do is just get these so they line up end to end. Get that as flush as I can. Okay, and there we go. So I got it pretty close. Again, not 100% sure if I'm going to make this straight or if I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I'll have to look and see how well it lines up. So I'll probably, I'll definitely have to sand it here, sand that edge off. And the same thing with this side. So this side is going to have quite a bit of a gap here. This side fits pretty good. I don't think this side. Might just try to bend these in just a little bit. Bend them in or totally get rid of them. So these pliers right here, just doing stormtroopers over the years, I went ahead and got rid of all the edge, the teeth or whatever. So now they're smooth. So when I bend stuff, it doesn't really damage the plastic a lot. But the good thing with this, compared to the Stormtrooper, is if it does damage it, I can very easily sand it or throw some bondo on there. So that one's bent down. Now I'm going to bend this one. So that one's bent down. So definitely going to need to trim it. And one thing I was also noticing when I put it on These are really close. So what I'm going to probably do is put a stick in there and push it out just a tiny bit and just heat it up just a tiny bit, enough to maybe get it to expand. See if I have something like so something like a stick to make it expand just enough to where I can heat it up and it'll stay in that position and make it just a tiny bit easier to put on. When I put it on, these parts both hit my ears, so if I can make it just a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to trim this. And then once I'm done with this and I like it, I'll go ahead and sand it down. Make it just a little bit smoother. And on this side. So that one's still got just a tiny bit of a little bit of a gap right here, but I don't think there's much you can do about that. And this side has a considerable amount of gap, so I might you know what I might do? I'll just bend this whole cheek in just a little bit. Kind of make my own little contour. Because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to put some Velcro here on the helmet, right down here, and then right here. So when you put it together, they both kind of clamp together. Go. And then I can always make a little bit of a return edge if I want to, or I can just sand it off. So I might still need just a tiny bit more. Right, let me go this way just a tiny bit more. I can make just a tiny bit of a return edge. And then I'll just sand it down. Get rid of the jaggedness. So that looks a lot better. It's not going to be perfect, but a lot better than what it was. So I'll do the same thing with this one. So I could do two ways. I can make it without the edge, and I think I like the return edge just a little bit better. And I still have to sand this face just a little bit, so I'll get rid of that little wrinkles or whatever. And then I'll also make this a little bit rounder. So let's try it now. So now with it on there, it sits a lot better. So all I need to do now, this Dremel here, I need to sand where I'm going to paint, and then Dremel it here, and then get it all ready for paint. So again, this is about maybe 2, maybe 3 light coats of primer. About 3, maybe 4 passes of bondo, and then about 2, maybe 3 passes with the ABS paste. And then I'm going to paint it about 4, maybe 5 coats of primer through the whole thing, and go light at first because this already has primer, but right here doesn't on both sides. So I want to go light because I want it to stick. I don't want it to start running. So primer on primer, it sticks pretty good, but primer on just regular plastic with no paint doesn't stick very well. So I'll go ahead and sand these down, and then I'll get the video ready for the next part, and that's actually priming this whole thing.